Hey, man, thanks for coming to the podcast.
Yes, sir.
You found it a lot easier than most people, so most people struggle to find the office. The best way to do this. Good job, Adrian. It's so funny, like, little side note, like, all this podcast gear and all these stuff, it's like, how is these arms are like the only arms you can buy that do this, and they just are not that great. And like, we've always talked about like making our own, but then it's like, well, there must be a reason why they don't do it that well.
Exactly.
So this show is sponsored by Resilient Real Estate Group, powered by EXP. So, you're thinking about buying and selling soon? Yes, we know you probably know a realtor, your mom's best friend's cousin's neighbor, puts her face on the local shopping cart. But you know what? Our friends at Resilient Real Estate Group have helped hundreds of thousands of people sell houses over the years, and they definitely know what they're doing based on their 5-star review on Google and Zillow. So, it doesn't matter if you're looking to buy $1 million house or a fixer-upper, make sure the next time you're thinking about buying and selling real estate, you give our friends a call over at Resilient Real Estate Group. And now we're back to the show. Why don't you tell everyone who you are, man?
All right. My name is Raymond Ramirez. In the Army, I was known as Ramrod.
Ramrod?
Yeah. I had...
like Super Troopers?
Like Super Troopers.
Okay.
But I was unbeknownst that it was Super Troopers.
Oh.
My first team leader, he was from Arkansas.
Okay.
And he couldn't say my last name.
Oh, so that's
So he was just like, you know what? I'm going to call you Ramrod. I was like, whatever. I mean, I'm like a fresh boot. I was like,
were you 18?
I was 17.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, man. I was born and raised Riverside. OG, I was born at Lowe's, you know, as a joke would say.
Yeah.
Used to be the general hospital. And, you know, man, like I grew up in the hood. I grew up right here in Arlanza.
Is that where you lived? Yeah.
Grew up there up until I left. I was, you know, just really didn't have no direction, you know, so I was at a community school, and the recruiters were there all the time.
Oh, trying to get you guys, yeah.
And it was right around the corner too, like his office. So I remember just one day just walking home, and I was like, let me go see what this guy's about.
Yeah.
You know, hook, line, sinker.
Gotcha.
Got me. I was 17, but I finished school a year early. My parents didn't know English, so I emancipated myself and took off. You know, so that was my adventure. You know, out of Riverside, you know. I mean, I came back when I met my wife for a short stint, you know, but when I came to buy my house, you know, it was kind of sad. I couldn't afford to live where I grew up at, you know, so I had to venture out.
Oh, and dude, it's crazy how much those areas have gotten. Where like a few years ago, like when I first started in 2016, like God, there was like $200,000, and now it's like $500,000.
$500,000.
And it's exactly the same house.
It's still the hood, bro.
Exactly.
It's still the hood, you know. Like, I mean, maybe they threw a paint job on a couple of the houses, but it's still the hood. But I just couldn't afford it. I mean, even though I wasn't paying no down payment, you know, the VA was helping me. I couldn't do it, man. Yeah. So, I mean, what I could afford was we ended up in Hemet, you know.
And Hemet used to be like, Hemet's not even cheap anymore.
No.
Hemet used to be the spot we sent everyone. If they couldn't afford it, like, hey, let's go. 74, Florida's not that long.
Yeah.
We can drive out there, trust me, and there's only a little traffic here and there. But like now, even out there, it's crazy expensive.
Well, it's definitely gentrifying.
Yeah.
You know, like as for myself, I mean, like most people don't believe me, but I bought my house in 2012, and it was $130. You know, and I mean, that's a pipe dream.
Oh,
that's a fantasy.
I know. Those are way gone.
It's gone, you know. So I mean, I've been there going on 10 years already, and like I said, it's gentrifying. So I'm happy. I'm like,
you're locked in.
I'm bring it on, you know.
Because now everyone's like building stuff out there.
Yeah.
It's like its own little community. You don't have to like come to Menifee.
100%.
It's crazy how much is being built down there.
100%.
Yeah. So for you, like when you were 17, going into the military, like. What do you remember? What was like the biggest like holy crap? What I just signed up for?
I've thought about that a lot, but I just think the biggest holy crap moment was I did believe the recruiter when he said war was optional.
Oh,
yeah. But as far as like the Army in general, I mean,
they tell you that?
Yeah. Well. They did at the time to just get you to go.
Now,
yeah, I mean, but I mean, for myself, and I think a lot of us during that time, because I mean, I was in boot camp with kids the same age, you know, like even though, I mean, we were from all over the U.S., you know, like we even had some immigrants from Haiti. We had some Haitians with us. you know, it was just, we just didn't have any direction, you know, like we didn't have a plan, you know. I mean, college probably wasn't an option for any of us, you know, like it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So when I went, man, I mean, I was 17. I mean, I just ate it up. I ate it up, you know. I was like, wow, I'm getting paid. I'm getting fed.
That's what I'm saying. You got food.
I'm getting trained, you know, like, and I didn't know anything about what I was doing. Like, I chose infantry because the sweet old lady that was doing my contract, she was like, oh, you know, you could be a truck driver, you could be infantry. Those were my only two options. So I was like, oh, truck driver sounds cool. She's like, oh, you want to do infantry? So I said, okay, sure, I'll do it, you know. So that was kind of the shocker, like, oh, okay, you're infantry. And I was like, well, what is that? Oh, you're front lines. I was like, oh, okay. You know, but at the back of my mind, I was like, okay, well, the recruiter's like, oh, you don't have to go to war if you don't want to. It's optional. But once you get there, you're like, no, you're going. You're going, buddy. And I was like, okay.
And what year was this?
05.
Oh, got it.
2005. And I mean, it was so fast. And even like boot camp was just kind of like just like a stepping stone, you know, like it was 3 months. And then before I knew it, I graduated and I was in Texas. And like, okay, well, you're going to be here for a year and then we're going to ship out. So I said, okay. And again, it was like, to me, it was like, okay, this isn't bad. This isn't hard. You know, like the guys that are struggling, I felt had like options on the outside, you know, like maybe their dad owned the company.
But you're like, this is all I got.
This is all I got.
So I'm getting paid. I got food coming in. I kind of have my own spot. I'm not living with my parents anymore.
100%.
I'm on my own.
And I was in Texas, you know. It was awesome, you know. Like, I mean, Austin was okay. I feel like being, you know, it wasn't my vibe, you know.
Because
like
were you guys out of San Antonio?
No, I was in Fort Hood, which is
okay.
like the middle. But I like Dallas. I fell in love with Dallas and Fort Worth, Arlington, you know, like that whole area. It was cool, you know. It was like... it was a big city, but it wasn't, you know. And I mean, in Texas, everybody's nice.
Yeah.
Everybody's nice in Texas, you know. Like, I took my family there a few years ago, like, for the first time. Every place we stopped at, you know, they're like, oh, howdy, how you guys doing? Oh, you know, we're from California. Oh. You know, so it was a good, I mean, I enjoyed my time there, you know. My family likes it too, you know. But, I mean, I just ate it up, man, you know. Like, to me, it wasn't hard. I think, remember when I got out of boot camp, my mom was crying, and I told her, "Why are you crying for?" And she was like, "Because your pants are pulled up and you weren't about and your shirt's all nice, you know."
Was it weird making that transition going home and still seeing? Because I'm from Riverside, so Riverside's the biggest small town ever.
Yeah.
So you come back and like all the friends you used to hang out with, they're kind of still doing the same thing, and you're now like your mom's like saying like you have like you actually tuck your shirt in, you have a gig line, you're all
I mean, that was, and I don't know how to say this, but it was hard to just look at it from a different perspective, you know, and just being like, man, like it's a bubble and it's a wheel that keeps turning, but it doesn't go anywhere. You know, it's the same cycles, you know, like in the hood, you know, you don't leave that house that you grew up in, you know, you raise your kids there, your mom raised you there, you know, your grandparents raised them there.
And sometimes it's all at the same time.
So it's just like, you know, coming back and just seeing like nothing's changing, you know, like, yeah, you know, like my friends were having kids and, you know, they were working now and this and that, but it wasn't changing. The wheel was still turning, but it wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like at all. You know, which is the great thing about now, you know, like, you know, with Riverside changing, well, just the whole IE changing and the whole dynamic of, you know, you can work from home, but, you know, you work for a company elsewhere, and then, you know, I have a cousin, he goes to Kentucky like every other month, you know, but he's working from home. But every once in a while, hey, you got to go here.
Just shop in really quick, yeah.
You know, and that's cool, you know, like we have those jobs coming to Riverside, you know, we have those opportunities coming to the IE, you know, like Paris is booming right now too.
But the problem is that everyone's ran out of space.
Yeah. 100%.
And then when COVID hit, it was like we saw this big transition from people like that would never go past like Chino Hills. And they're like, whoa, I can live out here. I can have this massive house. and I could pay the same I'm paying for a 2-bedroom house in Long Beach, like why would I not go out here?
Exactly.
And then all the businesses are like, oh crap, we have all these people out here. We can open a Costco. Like every little city, you don't have to go that far now for almost anything.
100%. I mean, you know, like that Costco that they opened up off the 215, right? Like the new one off of Clinton Keith.
Yeah, right past Scott Road.
Man, it's like Temecula was always packed because it's right there by the mall. The one in Mobile was always packed because it's right there.
Now you got that one right there.
You got that one right there.
It's funny. I was at my girlfriend's uncle's house yesterday, and they're like, "Yeah, they live right next to that Costco." They're like, we love that new Costco. It's so great.
Yeah.
And they're like, we got an AutoZone coming in. We got this coming in. We got that coming in. It's like we don't even have to we go down one exit. We're good.
When there was nothing there.
When you used to have to go down or farther back up, and for you, so when your boot camp was fine for you.
Boot camp
Easy.
was great.
You loved it. You were like, I'll do this all day long.
All day long.
Then where was your first deployment?
Well, my unit was in Fort Hood, Texas, the first CAF. I was there for probably a little over a year, I want to say. And then we got orders in the end of 2006 almost, because I think it was in October when we shipped out. We got orders to go to Baghdad, Southeast Baghdad, outside of this place called Slaughter City. And I mean, of course that, was kind of like, well,
it's getting real.
Yeah, because I mean, you're training up the whole time, but maybe you yourself don't want to think about it. You're kind of just having fun, you know. But then things start changing, and then it gets real. And then I remember my family couldn't afford to go see me off. But I think that probably ended up working out for the best, because, I was able to detach and say bye and, more not a drawn out process, I guess. Just bam,
Gotta go.
I just told my mom, all right, Mom, I think 3 days before, all right, Mom, they're going to take our phones away, blah, blah, blah. So, just able to just cut it off, get there, land, we got all the briefings and stuff. And then I guess it's just the magic of the training, the magic of the military, right? They've been doing it forever. And your mindset just clicks. It just changes. Okay, now we're working. Now we just clocked in, and we're not clocking out till we're on the bird and we're getting out of here. So that took a little bit of adjusting, but again, bro, I turned 18, I got to Texas in June. I turned 18 in November, So then I'm 18, we landed in October, I turned 19 over there in November, So I'm young, still gullible. I'm what they wanted.
Oh, yeah. I was literally having this conversation yesterday with my girlfriend's aunt. She was in the Marines, and she has some older sons. She was talking about them possibly going or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I just don't think I could have ever done it. And she's like, why? I go, I would ask too many questions. I'd be like, well, why are we going here? What are we doing this? Why are we going to this city? What is the reason? And she's like, why do you think I only did 4 years? They don't like questions. Mm-mm. It's just go do this, do your job. Don't think, just go do it, go home. That's how you're trained. 100%. She's like, don't ask questions.
100%.
If you want to ask questions, you won't make it too far. It is not a question-based place.
No. And I mean, so to me, it was okay, let's do it, let's rock and roll. And for the first couple months, it was okay, we took over, the old unit left, we got our sector, we're running our missions. And it was just okay, this ain't so bad, Then I was there 4 months when I got hit. And then it just seemed right after that, it was these guys are okay, it's, it's go time.
Yeah.
And it was we just fought till
4 months. You were there 4 months, and then after that, it was war.
It was war. Yeah, because, like you said earlier, you're oh, I would have tapped out. They drove me to a base in between to kind of transfer me from one vehicle to another. And then when I was on my way to the main base, to the main hospital, they're like, hey, there's a bird there. No, there's a bird coming inbound. So then I get there, go to the hospital. Great, you know, they had to do their thing, most painful process ever. And then they're like, okay, if you want to get on that bird and go, you know, we can punch your ticket and you can go home. But I just looked at the doctor and the nurse and I was like, could I stay if I wanted to? And they're like, oh yeah, we can heal up in the country and you can stay. So I was like, I'm staying. So I don't want to go back. Again, I was young, I was arrogant. And all you were ever heard was, you want to finish your tour, you know?
It's like a pride thing.
Yeah, it's a pride thing. So I was just like, could I stay? And then they're like, yeah. And then they still had to finish the mission. So they get back. And then my sergeants are the only ones that are allowed to come see me. And they're like, why'd you stay? And I was just like, because that's what you said to do. They're like, no, we didn't mean it like literally, you know. We just meant like, you know, like don't like wimp out,
yeah.
You know. But you got hit. You
go home.
Go home. And I was like, no, I don't want to, you know. And by that time, I was allowed to call my parents. And I could only talk to my brother because, you know, my parents, they didn't even really know English. They were a mess, you know. Like, I talked to my oldest brother, and he was just like, he's like, you need to come home. They already told us if you want, you could come home. And I'm not going home.
Do you feel like also you didn't want to come home because you already saw that like nothing changes back here? And so it's like, what, I'm going to go back to that?
I mean, at the time, no. At the time, it was just
pride.
Pride.
I'm 19, I'm tough. I'm going to finish this.
And even then, so I stay because I got shot in my back, right? Sniper, went in and out, right? It cauterized itself because we're pretty sure he shot me from a car, like not that far. So yeah, I mean.
So you didn't even bleed out?
No, because it cauterized. But that was what sucked when I went to the hospital.
Because they had to break it?
Oh my goodness. God. Hey, and the morphine felt great, right? But as soon as they had to start scrubbing and pop it through, the morphine went away. And they were holding me down because I was like screaming, you know, and it just hurt. So whatever, right? It happens. I can't even get pain meds because I'm on so many antibiotics, or like the pain meds is gonna be counteractive. So I did like the whole day following. All I did was smoke cigarettes, man.
How long were you out for?
They wanted to give me 2 months, but it was, I think like maybe 3 weeks that when everybody would go to sleep, like I'd throw my vest on and I would walk around and I'd try and get my strength back. Because again, it was like this, right? It was a big map, and I was manning the radios. So when my buddies were going through like just firefights or whatever, I'm listening to what's happening, and I had to write it down. So it was eating me alive, man. I was like, oh, I can't do this. I got to be out there. So I just got myself better, man, you know. And then one day I was like, I'm ready. They're like, it hasn't even been a month, and they gave you 2 months downtime. And I'm ready, right? I put on my gear on, and they looked at the holes, and the holes were healed, you know. And they're like, hey man, let me take you aside. Like, take your time. What's like? They're like, come on. So I was like, no, I want to go out there. And they're like, okay, you can go back out, but we're gonna send you home first. You need to go see your parents, you know. So I said, so if I go home to see my parents, then when I get back, I can go back on the line. Though you can go back on the line, but you got to go home to see your parents.
I'm surprised they did that.
Yeah. So I said, okay. So then I came home. You know, my mom killed a goat. We partied for like 2 weeks straight, you know. I mean, I had family come in and stuff like that, you know, so it was cool. But at the back of my mind, I was like, I'm ready to go back. And unfortunately, when I was back here, they warn you, like, hey, stay off your social media, you know, don't. And at the time, it was MySpace. Like,
good old MySpace.
They're like, stay off your MySpace. You know, if anything were to happen, the last thing you want to do is be home, hear something, and then, you know, you could possibly not come back or go do something stupid, you know. So I said, okay. And it was like the day before I left, I got on my MySpace.
So you started checking everyone's top 6.
And I lost 4 buddies.
Oh.
Like a few days before I was set to go back. You know, so So when I checked it, I started screaming or whatever, crying, and then that's when my oldest brother was like, "What happened?" I kind of told him this can't be real. So he gets on there and he's looking and he's just like, "It's pretty real, bud." So I was like, "Oh man!" Again, this is the day before I was leaving, and he's like, "I told you." He's like, "No, like let's just go to Mexico." And I'm just like, I gotta go back. I have to go back. I have to. He's just like, man, at this point, he's like, man, you're crazy. You're just nuts.
I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me.
I went back and the dynamic was completely different.
The mind shift changes.
The mind shift changed, and they're like, we were in first gear, third gear, we're redlining 6 gears right now. They're rocking and rolling, and we're rocking and rolling right back.
Was it tough to figure out like who you guys were even going against?
Where we were at, no, because we knew, like it was Solder City, and that was their holy city. So legally, we weren't allowed to be in there, right? Because it was, like the whole city was holy to them. But at nighttime, special forces and the SEALs were in there all the time. So, we were getting the dudes that were shipping in and out weapons to like the rest of the towns, So that's where the guys that we knew we were going after. But sometimes it'd be hard, because sometimes it was just, Joe Schmo had 3 wives and a bunch of kids he had to feed. So they would just hand them a cell phone and just be like, whenever you see the Americans, hit send.
And they'll know.
Know. Or hitting that send would blow up a roadside bomb. So in those instances, it was tough. Because, of course you're angry at the moment and stuff like that. But we had a lot of downtime. So, you would ponder and you'd be like, well, if my kids were starving.
What would you do?
And I had 3 wives, and there's no factories there. There's no warehouses there. There's no landscaping there. Like either you farm or you have a little storefront, and that's pretty much it. So, like as for myself, how I was raised, I was like, I grew up in the hood. I grew up poor, of course. Well, that's
why I think a lot of people sell drugs and steal. Yeah. It's not, no one grows up wants to be a drug dealer. Last time I checked, I've never met an 8-year-old that's like, one day I'm gonna be a drug dealer, or one day I'm gonna steal from people. It's just like survival. And, and it's just survive. Let's just survive as much as we can, and the hard issue is that normally you're in the hood, so then and I'm not from the hood, but I'm just guessing that then you're like, well, I could sell drugs to these people, and my family eats. Like, sucks to sell drugs to people in my community, but I need to feed my family, so I'm gonna feed them. Like, it is what it is. Like,
and that's exactly what it is.
They don't have. It's you come to this point. I always tell people that every issue is an economic issue. It's always money.
Always.
Every neighborhood that's in trouble, it's money. If everyone had money in there and they could get it from certain ways, they wouldn't do what they do.
Oh yes, because I got extended. We were supposed to be there a year, but the surge happened in 2007 when Bush sent, extra soldiers over there. So the mission changed at the end, and it was more hearts and minds. So we started drilling wells for them. And it would take about 3 days before, like, their elder was calling us and like, well, the bad guys came in and they're selling the free water now. We'd have to go there, chase them out. But it would get to a point where we're like, look, man, this is yours. This is your town. This is your people. You have to take responsibility.
Sooner or later. We understand before you guys had minimal options. So you guys had to go to the Taliban to make money.
but we restored your ice factory. We gave you water points. You know, we've introduced new crops to you guys. You know, like we're giving you these tools, but you guys always want to rely on us. Like, oh, it's okay, you know, we'll let it go, you know, because the Americans will be buying.
Come back in and save us.
But eventually we're like, no, we can't do it anymore, you know. So that was, I guess that's what made it so hard when, you know, when like ISIS came like years later, is because I felt like there was changes happening, you know, like the people were starting to be like taking pride, like, you know, but, you know, I'm not the one in charge. I don't even want to pretend to know, you know. I mean, I know all the shady things that happen behind closed doors, but it comes down to economics, like you said.
Yeah,
it was all money.
It's all money. All of it is money. Even these wars are all money. It's always
Somebody's
money. Someone's getting paid.
Yeah.
Like, to think what it cost us to buy something for a Humvee in the Army versus what it is on the open market, it's like mind-blowing, the upcharge.
Oh,
because the government doesn't care. They're like, $800 for that? Okay. No, whatever. We're not paying for it. Tax dollars, here you go. It's all money.
Yeah.
And I think that would be like the hard part, is like, okay, like we're all dying over here. And maybe like right when 9/11 happened, you know, obviously there's some patriotism, but like nowadays it's like, okay, cool, I just lost my friend for what? What did he get killed for?
And
oil
it isn't
money?
a secret anymore.
Oil money? Like,
yeah.
Awesome. Like, this is awesome. So if you think like I'm going over there to protect our country, like that is some crazy brainwashing you present.
Yeah. And you know what? And I think, you know, there is a great shift happening as far as like veterans and, you know, like us taking our, I guess like our healing into our own hands, right? Taking it out of the government's hands, right? Out of the VA, you know, like steering.
Oh, the VA hospitals.
Yeah, you know, just, you know, there's a wave of veterans starting their own organizations, doing their own things, you know, and just healing each other, you know, with ourselves, and just taking charge, I guess, you know, you can say, you know. I mean, there's a bunch of veteran podcasts, veteran companies, veterans, and they're there to help you, you know. They're there if you want the help, you know. You go, you email them, you call them, they'll call you, you know. Like, I'm a part of a couple where the sweet old lady calls me from like Seattle, like maybe like once every 2 months.
Just to check in,
dude, you know. And it's just this organization that a buddy was like, hey, dude, I'm gonna send you email. I joined their mailing list. Hey, you know what? You should be a member of this and that. And that's all it is, you know, just back and forth, you know. And guess what? Now I'm a part of that community now, you know. That other podcast that I told you about, you know, there's a lot of us that live here, like in SoCal. So, you know, now I'm a part of that community.
Yeah.
You know, I have a buddy in Redondo Beach. They do the Ruck for Vets, and they go all over, you know, and they raise money. And guess what? It goes right into back to the VFW or whatever charity that they choose, like that month, you know, that they're gonna donate to, you know. So it's just like, I mean, that's what I feel like is happening in the IE too, you know. Like, we're taking pride into our communities, you know. Like, yeah, like they're gentrifying, but man, you walk up and down these streets, dude, it didn't look like that when I grew up, you know.
No, it's totally different,
you know. And
there was neighborhoods you couldn't go into, because we're roughly the same age.
Yeah,
like I didn't go through Casablanca.
No.
Or when I was a kid.
Or right here on the east side.
Or east side. Like, it's crazy. Like, I've had people on the podcast from the east side, and they've done like toy drives or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, dude, like, when you doing a toy drive? All right, like Christmas time, cool. I'll drop off 20 toys, no worries. Yeah. And I mean, I was younger, but like my parents would have never done that. Now, like, I'm not able to go in, but like, I'm in walking arms and like, hey, this guy's trying to help us. Like,
100%.
That's all it is. It's like almost there's so much community now. Yeah. Because people are starting to process, like, your neighborhood is what helps you. No one else is going to help you other than your neighborhood.
And I feel like that's the push that I feel like isn't getting portrayed on the news or anywhere, because it's just like, no, why do you care what's going on in a different country? Like, you know, like, I mean, I don't mean to be like, you know, like insensitive, but what are the hurricanes in Florida? Like, what is that going to affect our daily lives over here? You know, like, yeah, okay, you can donate, send money, you know, like hearts and prayers, but how about you put some of that effort too in like the shelter that's up the street, you know?
Yeah.
You know, like things like that. But that's what I do feel is happening, you know, but just, you know, I mean, people like you know, like other podcasts, newspapers, magazines, you know, like local stuff.
Getting the word out.
That's what's getting the word out, you know. Facebook, for a lot of it's bad that it does, you know. Hey, you can go on there, man, and there's food drives,
there's good stuff.
There's car shows.
Yeah.
And if you read at the bottom, it says, hey, you could bring a toy, you could bring this, bring that, you know. We're going to be selling tacos for this, for that, you know. And it's just, it's great, you know.
So what made you get out?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was hurt, man.
Yeah.
Again, the pride. So my shoulder was messed up. I had fallen in a hole too and messed up my ankle. And they wanted me to change jobs. And it's just like, you don't go from infantry to anything else. You know, you might move up like Rangers or Special Forces, right? Like you climb that combat ladder. But as far as going lateral or anything like that, I mean, now that I think back on it, I'm like such an idiot, right? I should have got an office job, you know?
And just milk that.
And just rode out my 20, you know, again, you know. But now with like, I have cousins and nephews and friends with young kids. That's what I tell them. I'm like, look, man, you want to do Army? Cool. You want to do Navy? Better, you know? Like, I mean, there's different options, you know? But I mean, I got out just because I didn't want to change my job, you know?
But you could easily have slid over.
I could have easily just
slid over.
100%, you know?
And then get like booked down in like some base, and that's where you stay. You're not moving.
I could have came back here, been a recruiter.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was like the options were endless because, you know, like, yeah, you know, I did get shot. I did get a Purple Heart. You know, I was, you know, I got some medals and stuff. But so, I mean, it was like in hindsight, I should have.
Because then you're out in 40. And you got full retirement. You probably would have got some medical, I assume. Yeah. Some because of being shot and everything, and your ankle and all that stuff. And then you would have been done at 40.
Fun at 40 and been working somewhere else. And you know, like I had a buddy that like put 10 in, and I was like, dude, just go another 10. Like, what's 10 more? Like, you're already stationed in one spot. You're not moving. You're in. You know, you're down in San Diego. Just plop down another 10. It'll go fast. And then you're done at 40. Be done with it. And they do go by fast, you know. Like, I think about it now, and I'm like, man, I mean, I still got buddies that are in, you know, and they're just, man, they're all over the place. They've been all over the place, you know. And, I mean, I was like, man, like, if you were stationed in Italy, they're like, dude, I was there 3 fabulous years in Italy, you know. Like, man, that's insane, you know.
And if you're not on the front line...
Exactly.
If you can get off the... It's like I have a good buddy of mine that's like Riverside PD. I think he's been 3-4 years now. He got on as a normal cop, and he was all gung-ho, you know, young. His dad was a captain, and da-da-da. And I was like, when you get off the street, and then finally, like, he's like, I'm over this. Like, I'm over arresting the same people. He's like, I'm off. And then now he's off the street, and he's like, it's awesome. Like, I'm still getting paid as much. I'm off the streets. Like, yeah, I'll go on the streets every once in a while, but that's not my main gig. This is what I do now. It's awesome. Like, this is the truth. And then you're like, great medical, retirement, good money.
Yeah, and you're set.
If you play the game right, it's such a great play. The problem is they don't teach you how to play the game.
Yes.
And then you're, like, you know, you come from a place where your family doesn't speak English, so they don't know the game. And then everyone around you is, like, just trying to tell you to get out. Yeah. Instead of being like, hey, what's other options you have for yourself? Like, let's do this, and this. Yeah. Like,
and then, see, like, and I feel like that's one of the biggest... or the hardest parts about when you do get back from war is like everybody disperses, right? You know, dudes go to different duty stations, and you know, I mean, everybody's trying to further their own career at that point. When you get back, the perfect time, it's like you can pick and choose finally, right? Like the Army owns your ass.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
yeah, you're fine.
But when you get back from war, it's like the playing field is level, and you can pick. I had buddies that were like, they were single. Like, we're going to Germany. We're going to Hawaii. Guess what? They went to Germany and they went to Hawaii. Had a blast. But again, at that moment, everybody's looking out for themselves, because it is the one time where you can, and it's possible, right? The internal recruiters are like, where do you want to go? There's a blank sheet right here. You just tell me what to put in the middle right here. I'll sign it and you sign it. And you're good to go, But
is that what it is? Is like when you come back, it's almost like, well, you did that for us, and now let's do this for you.
I feel like it is. Like it's a perfect, way to put it. You get to choose, like, where do you want to go, There's a few guys that came in a little later than us, and unfortunately they were still part of the needs of the Army, so they got back and oh no, you got to go to, you have to go to Kansas, you have to go to Seattle, but those of us that were there from like when the unit started.
You signed a 4-year?
3 years.
3 year.
Because I was 17. Yeah. So, I mean, I wanted to do the 20, like I said, but, you make those decisions, and then, I was young. I got out. Oh, wait.
Oh, it was in the market crashes.
Oh, my God. I got out. I had a family friend who had a company. Got in with him, making great money. By the end of 2008, he was out of business. And I bounced from a couple other multi-million-dollar companies. They went out of business.
Yeah. I think that's the one thing. Like, I have buddies that have jobs that are not affected by the economy, and they like complain. I'm like, dude, literally the world could go to zero and you'll still get a paycheck. Like, it is not affected. Just like the government, you are not affected by the economy. Like, you don't care about inflation. Like, it doesn't affect you. Like, you're not worried about like what economic plans are going right now or next year. Like, I'm like, shut up. Like, I gotta worry. I gotta watch the news every day to be like, what is going on with the news? What's going on with the economy? What are people saying? What's going on with this? And then you're like, do, because I had a type of job like that in 2008. Like, I never even knew. Like, my parents didn't lose a job. They didn't lose a house. Like, I didn't even know we were going through an economic crash. I had no idea. I didn't watch the news because I was like 21. Yeah. I didn't pay attention. Now that I look back, now I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Like, that's why when I would go into that small city, like, there's boarded up windows and stuff. Like, I had no idea.
Yeah, and that's why in 2012 too, there was a few houses in Riverside, and how my parents moved to Fontana. When I joined the Army, they dipped too. They went to Fontana.
Oh, they left?
So it was when everybody was getting their houses foreclosed. So if the door had a doorknob, you would go in the house.
Yeah.
And they just, drywall was destroyed. They took toilets.
I know. People always go like, I want that again. I'm like, you weren't around. I wasn't around. But I ask people, I'm like, what was it like? They're like, dude, it's not fun. Like, you go into every house is dangerous. Like, you have no idea what you're walking into. You don't know if the owner's going to be still there, upset at you, even though it's not your problem. Yeah. And the houses are all destroyed because people get pissed. They steal everything. They put holes in walls, and then the bank's like, okay, buy it. Like,
well, see, in the VA, the house had to be move-in ready.
Move-in ready, yeah.
So eventually we just walked away. Like, I told my wife, we tried Riverside, we tried Fontana, there was some cities, I'm not going to name them, we were like, no, and then we went to Hemet. The street was quiet, the house was nice. My wife fell in love with the house, and she was like, look, we grew up in the hood, but at least this street's not hood. Yeah. This street.
She from Riverside too?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just.
You're an Arlington boy then? Mm-hmm. You went to Arlington?
No, I went to Norte Vista.
Norte Vista.
Well, for a little bit, then Alvord, then. Oh, Alvord. Then the other stuff.
Only Riverside people know what Alvord is. Yeah. Only certain Riverside people know that name.
Yeah. So I mean, I did struggle, right? It was the whole, you get out with high hopes, you're on top of the mountain, and you just fall and struggle all the way down, until, you surround yourself with the right people, you get in contact with the right people, and then, you kind of start to build your life back.
I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price.
think I heard a quote the other day on someone's podcast, a million of them, or Instagram or TikTok, something. It was basically stating like you go from being Rambo to now you're like working a normal job. You're Rambo driving $1 million tank or a Humvee or whatever, and like this is your life every day for years, and then you come back home and now you're like just some person working some humdrum job. Like you go from this hot, like this craziness to this, and you're like, so then you want, and then add everything you've seen, and you're like, okay, like this is like boring, or it's like the excitement's gone, or
it is, man. It really is just an adrenaline dump, you know, and you just, unfortunately, you end up chasing it with, you know, like not the right things, you know. But like I was fortunate enough, you know, I always had my wife there, you know, and you know we started having kids, and she, you know, she kind of was just always there to be like, stop me, you know, like before you get too crazy, you know. And then it was like, hey, you know,
we don't need to go down this road.
We're gonna go down this road. We gotta buy a house. Okay, you know, hey, we need a truck, you know. You got to get a better job. We got to get a truck, you know. And so, well, you know, it's been the gradual, you know, and like I told you, you know, like when there comes a point where your perspective finally does change, you know, because I got great friends doing great things, you know, and I feel like, you know, you find these people and you find these avenues, and like your mind starts to change, and you start to see like, oh, okay. You know, like, it's not all bad. It's not all this, you know, like there's Instagram pages that are dedicated to like, you know, all the bad stuff that happens in Riverside, but your page is right there with them too. You know, like, you know, it's all perception. It's all like what you look at. And then the worst part about it's whatever you continue to like, the worst part I think about social media that who knows if anyone will ever get used to is the algorithm is so like, whatever you continue to watch, it continues to show more, which then continues you to watch more, and then you just spiral out of control. And it's a dangerous tool that, like, I don't even know. Like, I have 3 kids, and it's like they're all under 15, 13, 11. And even with them, I'm like, I have to set limits. Like, you can only be on TikTok, or you can only be on this for this long, because if not, you know, the hours go by, and you don't even realize, like, what I don't even know they know what they're even looking at. Yeah, I really don't. Yeah, I mean, with the kids, you know, like I tell my kids, look, there's really much, just the boundaries are, hey, nothing inappropriate and no cussing. If I hear it, it's off. You're done, you know, so don't let me hear that even once, you know. And then, like, you look at yourself as an adult and you're like, man, there's a lot of car accident videos on my phone lately, you know, and you got to start changing that up. And I mean, and like I said, like for me, I'm thankful, you know, like I've had friends, like I said, like right now, you know, like they're involved in charities, they're involved in doing these great things, you know, like, you know, I got a buddy, he turned border patrol or customs, and now he's a chaplain for the customs. Okay. You know, like it's not so much my vibe, but to see like the things we were doing overseas and all the craziness. Now doing this. And now he's just a family man, you know, has a great job and has, you know, doing this, and like, oh man, you know, like it's admirable. And it's just like, you know, he started seeing the world in a different lens and a different view, and it's just like, okay. And me being in that position now, oh man, it's fantastic, you know. What would you do if your kids, when they turned 18, said, I'm gonna join the military? First of all, I would tell them, wait till you're at least 21, because getting busted underage drinking sucks, man. It really does. Oh, when you're in the military? Yeah, it really does, because I mean, we had some dudes from the Bible Belt, and even those dudes eventually started, you know, drinking, you know, nothing crazy, you know, but I mean, it was, it just makes the experience better. Well, and you have something to pass the time. Yeah, 100%. You know, it's just, you get a little bit more life experience too. You know, hopefully by then you get a little bit more confidence in yourself. You know, your body's a little bit more, you know, tougher, I guess. Yeah. You know, I mean, you kind of know what's up already by then. You know, but I've had talks with my kids, you know, and I tell them, like, would it hurt me to see you go? 100%. Because, you know, like, the veil's been lifted. We know what these wars are. We know what's going on. You know, we know it's the politicians getting rich off. And you would kind of hope that, like, you put your kids in a position
where they wouldn't feel like they would have to go.
100%. You know, like
because I wonder what the number is at. The number of people that go because they don't feel like they have anything else. It's probably like 90%.
90%.
Unless maybe their parents were in the military and then they feel like the honor.
But even that, like I can tell you, like from experience, yeah, you did have maybe 3 or 4 of the guys were like, it was they felt like, oh, their great granddad, their dad, you know, like uncles and everything. But majority of us that were there, man, that was it.
It was probably some people think it's military or prison, one or the other.
I met this kid. He kept staring at me. I was in boot camp. Finally, the 3rd day, I was like, hey, man, what's your problem with me? You know, I was like, what's up? You know? And he was just like, he's like, I just never met a Mexican before.
Really?
And it changed. I mean, just right then and there, I went from like, man, I'm going to punch this kid. So I was like, well, sit down. You know, like, I'm real.
Yeah.
You know, I'm here. You know, and he was like,
and some people, dude, we live from SoCal, but like, there are areas that are all still only white people or only certain communities, like where some people don't ever see. No, they never leave their hometown. They never leave, and that's all they know.
Yeah, 100%, man. You know, I met people that were from like say from Nashville. You know, Nashville, Tennessee. Like you would think, you know, blah blah, but they're like, no, I'm not from that Nashville. I'm from like. outer
I'm
Nashville,
out in the sticks,
you know. And it was like, I never interacted with a Mexican before, you know. I heard they worked in the fields, you know, and I was like, oh, okay, you know. I mean, you know, like we're fortunate enough in California that
where it's so standard.
Yeah, you know, like I went to school with kids that moved from other states, you know. It was normal, you know, like in California. I mean, but you know, I mean, I met dudes that were just it was just you know, like I had an old PlayStation 2. This kid never even played a video game before. But yeah, man, you can have this. Go ahead. Go crazy. You know, like I was like, this is Grand Theft Auto. This is going to blow your mind.
Go play,
dude. Knock yourself out.
Now PS5. Now it's the next level. So what advice would you have anyone to wrap this up on if they're thinking about going, if they're on the fence, or someone who maybe is, let's go with that question first. And then the next question I'd like to go, someone who's out searching, needing a community to fit into.
I would say if you're gonna go, go wholeheartedly. Give it your all, 100%. Just you know, when I got out and I went to college, I had one teacher from the very beginning tell me, treat this like a marriage. You're married to this. And you want this to succeed, and you want to graduate, and you want to get a degree, and you don't want to waste all this time and money. And I said, yes, ma'am. Okay, you're married now. You know, you have a new wife, and that's college. And I feel like, dude, that's what got me through college. So now I'm like, with the military, that's what got me through the military. You know, I gave it my all. You know, I had nothing out here, no other option except the same warehouse job, and you know, just the same things that everybody else was doing. So I went and I didn't look back. You know, of course I would come back and visit my family, but I knew that my life was in the military. Yeah. And that's how I succeeded, you know. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but you know, it was easy for me, and I advanced, you know, and you know, like I got people that could vouch and say, yeah, you know, like that's probably one of the best things that I was good at was being a soldier, because it was, you know, like I married it, you know, there was me, you know, and so that would be my only advice. Maybe wait until you're 20, 21 would help out tremendously. You know, you'll thank me. You know,
because who knows, maybe an option comes up that you didn't know about, 100%. And it gives you a little bit of time to kind of get your bearings, who you are.
100%.
I mean, we didn't know who we were.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it took me about 35 years to figure out who I am. Like, 100%. I just got it last year.
Yeah, exactly, right? So you know, like, probably like those two things. And yeah, you know, like you'll find my name in this podcast and be like, hey, I want to thank that guy, you know, because he gave me solid advice. Yeah. You know, and as far as getting out and finding that community, we're in a great time right now. You know, I know I've had a couple buddies that are part of the statistic, you know. Mm-hmm. You know, they're no longer with us, and it's tough. It was tough because, I mean, if you're trying to find help from the VA, you're not going to find it.
Yeah. You got to give up on that.
You got to give up on that, you know. But man, we're at a great time where there are so many good organizations. You know, you just have to just open up your phone. You know,
shoot an email.
Just shoot an email. You can Google like organizations. You know, and there's great ones out there, and they're hungry. They're looking for you. You know, they want you to be a part of it. You know, like there's one that I told you about earlier. I joined. It's called Warrior Bonfire. And they'll email you, hey, we have this hunt coming up. Hey, we have this scuba thing coming up. And they pay for everything. The only thing you have to pay for is your flight up there.
To get there.
But they'll tell you your meals are paid for, the whole experience, your gear. I mean, whatever you're doing, whether you're hunting, hiking, going on a dive, whatever you're doing, it's covered 100%. And that's the old lady that checks up on me every other month. You know, there's so many people out there, and you know living in your community. Riverside does a great job. Hemet, small little town, does a great job on Veterans Day, Memorial Day. You know, these car shows have no longer just be car shows. There's booths there of different veteran organizations there, and they just want your information.
Yeah,
you know, they want to help you.
Well, the hard part is like unless you've gone through it, it's very hard to. Yeah. It's very hard to like put yourself in the shoes and be like, I know where you're coming from. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You really don't. Exactly. Only if you've experienced it will you ever know.
And it's those guys at that booth
that have experienced it, and they can talk to you in a language that you understand.
100%.
Because that's the hard part is when like you're going through something and then someone's like, oh, I feel you. Like you don't. Like you have no idea what it feels like.
Yeah.
And in all aspects, it's like business owners, fathers, mothers,
homeowners, bro,
like everyone. Like it's so hard. Like I have 3 stepkids, so it's always so frustrating when someone's trying to give me advice on stepkids. I'm like, you don't have stepkids; those are your kids. It's a different. It's completely 100%. Different.
I feel you on that one.
You know what I mean? Like you're not dealing with someone else. Like you're not their full dad. They have another dad. Like you can't tell me like how to parent because you don't parent that way. I have to parent differently than you do. And that's what I always tell people. Like I try to stay in my lane. If I have no idea what you're going through, like who am I to give you advice?
See, and that's okay. Stay in your lane. But guess what? There's a lot of lanes now.
Exactly.
It's fantastic.
And everyone, you can truly, whatever lane you're in, you can find someone else nowadays who's also in that lane with you.
And
it's if you don't find them, it's your fault.
Yeah. And honestly, like there's people, you know, like yourself's a great example. You're willing to give me a voice to sit here.
Of course.
You know, and you know, find me on Instagram. I'll help you. I'll take you with me. Let's go, dude. You want to go to a meeting? AA meeting? Hey, I'll sit with you in the AA meeting, you know. You want to go to the VA and go to their meetings? I did that too. Some of them are great. Let's go, dude. Mm-hmm. You know, you want to go to these veteran car shows that I've been yapping about? Let's go, dude. I guarantee you will find you will have a good time and you'll find common ground.
Especially nowadays because the whole mental health thing is not taboo anymore.
Yeah, it's not.
It used to be taboo. Like when like our probably like maybe not even our parents, but our grandparents, like it was like you didn't talk about just in general, they never talked about it. But especially if you were a military guy, you definitely didn't talk about it. And they were going through issues that now like, oh, well, that makes sense why they were like, you know, alcoholics or whatever. Because alcohol and all the drugs and whatever is just a mask. You're masking an issue you don't want to face.
And it doesn't make it any better.
And it makes it worse.
It makes it worse. 100%.
Like, I'm not drinking this year, and people are like, how do you do that? I'm like, dude, I'm allowing myself to experience moments, and I'm not trying to mask them. Because we need to get through these, and alcohol is just a masking of it.
And like most of the time, you make the situation worse.
The worst, or we're old. I mean, not old, but we're old enough where then you feel like shit the next day.
Yeah. 100%.
Then you're like, ugh, what a terrible idea that was.
And guess what? My wife's still mad.
Yeah. And probably even more mad because now you're tired.
Yeah.
You don't want to help with the kids, and then you're like, great, you went and did that. Now I was upset with you with that. Now I'm upset with you because of this, and now it's double dipped. No, thank you. So, what's the best way that people get a hold of you, man? Find you.
Instagram 65 spell out 65_Ray.
That a boy.
And like I said, if you're out there, if you're in Riverside, Hemet, the whole I area, I'm around. You know, I don't work weekends. Only work Monday through Friday. Great schedule. I'm willing to hang out.
Well, I appreciate what you've done, man. And like I said, before we even got on this podcast, like I would have dipped out way earlier. But yeah, man, I don't think people process what it is and what, and it's something that you'll live with forever. It's not like it goes away over time. So appreciate your service. Appreciate what you do. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Make sure if you need help, go find him, Google, whatever you got to do. Make sure you realize that people do care about you and they understand exactly what you're going through. So until next time, guys, peace.